Hi everyone, my name is Didier Lopes. I'm the CEO of OpenBB, and today I'm gonna talk about the OpenBB Terminal, in specific the concept of routines, which allow you to really be really fast at doing investment research and automate a lot of your investment research, which is something that, as far as I know, doesn't really exist, and that's a bit like how I started the OpenBB Terminal. That's one of the reasons that, as an engineer, like I always felt that like the tools out there didn't really allow you to automate investment research. And so, yeah, this is where we are today. I'm going to use the Python version. You can also like access the installer on our website, openbb.co. And yeah, so let's get started. So here I'm just calling the terminal. This is what the terminal looks like. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction in case this is your first time. Here you have the version that we have, our website that you can access. I'm on the latest stable version. Bear in mind that this is actually a more advanced version that is not yet announced, but will be announced for the end of March. When you see a line to be like this color and with this symbol at the beginning, it means that this is a menu, which means that when you go into that menu, you'll have access to more commands. So in this case, I go here and these are commands. This is the parameter, which means that based on the commands above, this will appear something in front. These are commands, and these are the data sources associated with the commands. And these are more menus that you can dive in. So let's, for instance, say that I want to load the Apple price. You can do interrogation mark, and you'll see that we loaded Apple daily, and the start is from 2020 because we didn't add it like a starting date, but we could have. So we can do load -h, and you can understand all the parameters that you can add. In this case, this is good enough for what I want to show you, and I want to show you the candle chart of Apple. And this is one of the reasons why this version is not out yet. So this is going to be a more interactive version that anyone will be able to use. Another cool thing that you may do is you can export data. So you can export on the CSV format, or even give it like a file name, and you'll see that this file is saved. So then you can open it on your Excel spreadsheet, or you can load it for any other program that you may wish. Okay. But now let's start to get into the concept of routines. So this is all cool and fun, and you can do a lot of stuff, but like we really wanted to be able to allow you to be fast doing investment research, right? So one of the first things we thought is like, okay, it would be cool if the user could create like pipelines of commands so that they could have access to things like much faster. So let's say that I go into the technical analysis menu, and I have access to all of these technical analysis. So I can do EMA, and then I can select length of 30. Then I want to check the Fibonacci sequence. We can do Bollinger Bands as well. Okay, this takes a bit of time, right? And if you know that you're gonna do always the same for the same ticker, like there must be a better way for you to always have to write the same commands, which was a bit my struggle when I started doing investment research. Was like, I need to do the same process for all of the tickers I see, which is like, comprises of having multiple dashboards open and always looking for the same data. And that the only difference was my insights after that. And like, there must be a better way for you to do that. And so that's what OpenBB Terminal is today, which is this like infrastructure, like middle layer between like a world of data sources from like, ETFs, macroeconomy, like fixed income, crypto, options, like anything. And then like the users and the platform is basically like open source, which allows like users to add more data sources and more commands. And at the same time, the data sources stand to win because they get access to all of these new flow of users using them. And so what we thought is like, okay, let's allow users to create a pipeline. So instead of having to do what I just did, I could just create TA, then dash, which basically creates like a pipeline. And then I can say, okay, I want EMA with a length of 30. I want the Fibonacci sequence, and I want the Bollinger Bands. And so I run this, and this will put like 3 charts immediately. So once this is done, I can come back and look into how this looks, right? And then I can export data, I can visualize it, there's going to be an option for it to even be able to share on a link with links, which I think is going to be pretty neat. Okay, so this concept is out of the way. So what does this has to do with routines? So as much as this is nice, like creating a big like pipeline of commands is not the best user experience. So imagine having to share with your friend something that looks like this: stocks, load up, as well fundamental analysis, and let's check a price target of Apple. So let's say you have to share this. this is not the best way to, do things like faster. There must be a better way. So we created the concept of routine. Okay, what is a routine? A routine is basically a file, which is a really text file, but we call them .openbb. And it basically recognizes the commands in it, and it puts them on this format that I just shared with you, but you don't really see that. So you can create like a much better routine. So let me show you an example. So if I do this, I go back to, and let me run a routine. Let's run this one, example.openbb, okay? And now you run something and something happened, and you're like, okay, the exponential moving average of Microsoft popped up, but how? Okay, and so we're gonna open this routine, and you can see that what it does is as the stocks command, it does load Microsoft command, you go into technical analysis command, and then it goes into exponential moving average. And that is nice. But we wanted to do more. We wanted to be able to share this with someone and share the reason for why you're doing what you're doing. So we allow the creation of things like, you can say dive into stocks, or you can say load Microsoft, I want to look into Microsoft, and you can write interested in EMA. But let's say that you are interested in also having access to the Fibonacci sequence, as we shared before. So also interested in Fib. So I can just write Fib, and you'll be able to see that now the Fibonacci sequence will run as well. So I save that file, and then I run it, and you can see exponential moving average runs, and also the Fibonacci sequence runs, and there's a print in the terminal, which is pretty neat. The next step for us was, okay, this is cool, but like, if I need to load a different ticker, I would have to go onto this OpenBB file. So basically, based on Perl into X. So based on Perl, we basically took the idea of creating this concept of like the dash argv, and then select that is the first element. And that means that when I run this script, so you can run it also like this, example.openbb, I can select dash I as an input, and I can say that my input now, instead of being Microsoft as before, I want it to be Apple. So you'll see that the Apple gets taken off the command line interpreter, and it gets put onto the script. And so everything that happens now is in correspondence with Apple. Okay, so that's something that an extra that we did, and I'm actually quite proud of that. But then the next step for us was like, okay, this is cool, but like I can probably write a routine pretty fast because I know in my head like what commands we have, how they work. What about someone that is testing the platform and doesn't really want to, have to write something and then copy paste it onto a routine? So we created this concept of like record. And what record does is it starts logging in the commands that you are using on the terminal. So let's say I go into crypto, and let's say I load Bitcoin. I look into the candle of Bitcoin, and let's say that I'm interested on not just the candle, but also the Bitcoin chart. And I know that is on overview, and I know that it's called Bitcoin Rainbow. And that should display as the Bitcoin Rainbow. And then let's say that I want to go back to the main menu. Here we are. So now I say stop. Okay, and what happened here is that it created this new routine. And as you can see, this routine is just basically calling the same commands that we did during the time. And then we can come in and add our own notes to it. So we can, say, loaded Bitcoin because yes, something like that. And so right now you actually need to exit the platform in order for it to recognize that routine exists, just because once it boots up, it looks into the OpenBB user data folder and looks for that routines. And because this one was just recorded and saved right now, you won't be there until you like run the terminal again. So now this is the one I want. It finishes in 727, and you'll see that it will execute the same routine that we just did. Okay, and where's the rainbow? Should be appearing here, and here we are. All right, this is cool, and yeah, so this is already pretty neat. And so one thing that I wanted to share with you as well is that I bought a mechanical keyboard recently, which is the one that you can see here. And one of the reasons I also bought it is because I could customize the hotkeys as I wanted. And so this is the Keychron Q2, by the way. And I was interested on creating my own macros to basically allow me to be faster doing like investment research. So if I don't know where is this program. Here we are. So basically you have like several layers on the terminal. So this is like the normal ones, and then you have layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, and basically you are able to click on one of these and select, like, create what you wanted to do as a macro. So in my case, I was interested on, let's say, associating macros to hotkeys. So let's say I click this one and I want to associate this, which is my Z, with the macro 0. But it needs to be at layer 3, which means that I need to click on F1 when I do so. And let's say I want to use this as macro 1. So now that this is done, I can go into macros, and macro 0 has nothing. But let's say that I want it to have something. And I could load a ticker here, but I'm not going to do that. And the reason is because I want to be able to load a ticker on the terminal and then just be able to execute something after that step. So let's go into the terminal, and let's say that I go into stocks. And I want to load Apple as usual. And now let's look into the menu. So after this point, now is when I'm interested on creating a hotkey. And the reason I'm interested now is because then I can load another ticker and keep the sequence of events, of actions that I'm interested. And so, for instance, I know that if I go into dark pool short data, there's going to be a command called price versus short to interest. And then I can go down, back, I can go into the fundamental analysis, and I can check the price target of Apple, but also the income sheet, for instance. And let's say that I want them to come back to this menu because there's something else that I may want to do. I can actually do it like this. So I can run these, and this should, since this is a pipeline of commands, it should be all automated. And as you can see, here are the outputs, and then you should have here the income statement. So I will copy these right now, which is what I'm interested on having as a macro, and I'll put it here. And I'll do the following, which is pressing enter as well, which I think I can do like this. KC enter this one here. I think it's like that. All right. And now here we are. So now let's say I don't want to run this again. I want to run it now on Tesla instead of Apple. So I can do, no, this is not Tesla. And so I think if I do this, here we are. Now we are running the same command that I did before, but instead of being for Apple, it's for Tesla. And here, for instance, you can see a bug, which is that these price targets are not taking into account the split that happened in Tesla around this timeline here, which is all right as long as you know about it. So this is pretty cool, right? Because now I could load Netflix, and I could do the same thing, and then I basically just come here, and here we are running it again with the price targets for Netflix. I get the price versus short volume interest for Netflix, and I get the income statement, which could use a bit of colors, and you are able to do that through the open source. It's just something that we haven't prioritized. This is pretty nice, right? One more thing though, which is, okay, we can keep on adding here, right? And this can become like really big, but like, again, as earlier I was mentioning, like this is one of the things that we didn't like, which is like having to share this big, like, you know, line, which can become huge. And the idea is that, you know, you can run something, you can go grab a coffee, and you come back and you have like a lot of like charts to have a look at. And one of the things we are really bullish about is the already reports functionality, which will allow you not just to run these data points, but actually to put them in a reports format where you can just scroll and have access to it, and then add your own notes on top of it, and really streamline the whole workflow of like an analyst, for instance. But anyway, so going back to the same issue that we had before, it's like, okay, what if we went one step further, and instead of being running a list of commands, we did the same as before, which is like we just run the routine. And so let me go back to home. So that's what we allowed to do. So basically I can come here and I can say, okay, this macro one, which is on this key, which in my case is going to be the X key when I press on my FN. This macro here is going to be execute, and let's use the example.openbb, which is the one I shared before. Actually, this one is looking into a ticker, so I'm going to use this one. So if I go into rename, where should it be the rename? Oof, I cannot find the rename. I can probably copy the path. Not sure if that's going to work, but it works. So basically I can say, okay, I want to execute this whenever I press on that macro, and let me add the enter here, because I don't need to press enter on it. I just want the macro key to run the routine and then press enter. So basically then I could be here and I could do this, and here we are going back onto the routine. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share of what you can do. I mean, I just, yeah, the comments that I share is literally the tip of the iceberg. There's so much data that you have access through our platform. And bear in mind, this is not our data. This is data from like over 90 different like data sources to a lot of different asset classes, ETFs, economy, Forex, futures, whatever. And like the code is open source, which means that our goal is that users can add any data source that they are interested in terms of any asset class. And we just really want to focus on providing an amazing like infrastructure, like platform that you can not only use to have access to data, but really like streamline your investment research and also even build your own products on top of it. And that's why we released the SDK a few months ago. And yeah, that's the core of like what the OpenBB terminal is. But then we also have like these toolkits which allow you to, you know, do some portfolio optimization, check your portfolio performance, doing some time series forecasting with Nixla and Darts, or checking econometrics, which is something that is usually done on the financial courses in the university. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial on how to leverage routines in the terminal and even how to use your own like, you know, keyboard to do so. And yeah, see you next time.